San Francisco has been waiting for this game for 10 months. Do the Eagles have enough gas in the tank to actually sweep this 6-game gauntlet? Sean Green and Justin Bruni have your Week 13 props, odds, starts, and sits. And radio great Angelo Cataldi will join us to talk about pro football, the Philadelphia Eagles, and his brand new book. That is all on an action-packed edition of This Week in Pro Football.
It's time for This Week in Pro Football, a deep dive into the key issues and marquee matchups in the National Football League. For the next 60 minutes, we invite you to sit back or lean in with host Pat Callahan as we preview the week's Eagles matchup, big games, breaking stories, and all news NFL. It's This Week in Pro Football, right now on JAKIB Media Sports.
Welcome to Week 13 here, This Week in Pro Football. Pat Callahan joining you on JAKIB Sports. Give me a follow, please, on X at TWIPF-Pat. You can follow the network at JAKIB Sports. Great to be back with you here as we preview week number 13 in the National Football League. Very happy to have Sal Paolantonio joining me in his usual spot in just a few minutes. We're going to talk all things Eagles-Niners with Sal, and also, of course, look around the National Football League. Maybe preview a little bit 6 things in the next 6 weeks that will clarify the playoff picture. We'll do that also with Sal. So always looking forward to that, having the national correspondent for ESPN back here on the show. The usual suspects coming up after that, of course, Sean Green, Justin Bruni will talk all the usual odds and props and starts and sits from fantasy football. Week 13, big week in fantasy. And then we'll finish the show up introducing, for the first time on this program, radio great Angelo Cataldi, from spent 30-plus years on the 94, what was 610 WIP, is now 94 WIP, hosting the morning show. He's finally getting some sleep now, I guess. He has a new book out. We'll talk about that. All right, listen, thank you very much for joining me. I want to get off here, get off my lawn here, if I may. I want to talk about tanking. Now, the New York Giants defeated New England over the weekend, and the Chicago Bears upset Minnesota Monday night in 2 incredibly dreadful games. But the Giants won and the Bears won. And I can't tell you how many comments I have seen on social media or heard lamenting the fact that those 2 teams won the game because it injured their draft status for the 2024 draft. I don't like hearing that at all. I think tanking is terrible. It's terrible in any sport, in any way, at any time. And I would challenge anybody, and there were numerous media, and including fantasy football guys, who think they're experts, talking about how possibly the Bears could do that, or the Giants could do that, or any other teams could do that. Well, the answer is that they're trying to win. That's what athletes do. They try to win. The 53 guys that run an NFL team on any given Sunday are not there to lose. They're there to win. Same thing with the coaching staff. What coaching staff in their right mind would purposely lose a game when they know they could be fired on Black Monday? But that's not the point. Any of you who think tanking is a good idea, I would challenge you thus. If you took your son or daughter to a baseball game, would you ever, when you pulled the car up, say to them, now listen, make sure you strike out now at any chance you're up there because we want to get a better pick in the Little League draft next year? The answer is no, you wouldn't. You would never instill that type of thought in your son or daughter. So please don't talk about a professional team doing it. They're there to win, and that's why they made it to the NFL in the first place. So please, enough with the tanking talk. All right. One other thing I want to get to before we bring Sal on, and that is quarterbacks. I have been lamenting and with Sal to the state of quarterback in the NFL. Well, there was never a better example than this week. I charted 15 quarterbacks in this league. There were no buys, 32 quarterbacks played. I charted 15. That's virtually half of the league. In those 15 games, those 15 quarterbacks, not necessarily 15 games, those 15 quarterbacks threw 9 touchdowns, averaged 201 passing yards in today's NFL. I dare say I think I might be able to do that. We're sacked on an average of 4 times and threw an average 1 pick. Those same quarterbacks, and you would recognize the names: Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi in New England, Tim Boyle, the Jets, Jake Browning, Cincinnati, Will Levis in Tennessee, Tommy DeVito, the Toast in New York, Sam Howell and Washington, Joshua Dobbs, Desmond Ridder, Bryce Young, Baker Mayfield, even Geno Smith, who I think's returned to the mean. Of all those quarterbacks I just mentioned, 7 of them had no touchdown passes. 8 were sacked 4 times or more. 10 had less than 200 yards passing. The 15 totaled 11 touchdown passes. They threw 9, ran 2. So 15 quarterbacks totaled 11 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen in that one game on Sunday totaled 9. So you can see what a barren wasteland half of the NFL is when it comes to starting quarterbacks. And none of those teams are tanking, ladies and gentlemen. They're there because it's such a dangerous game to play. And so many of these quarterbacks have been hurt. In some cases, it's just been totally a lack of performance. We've talked about that on past shows, that college football is proving to be a very poor farm system for NFL quarterbacks, at least in the last few years. College game's a wide open game, but it doesn't favor the Brady, Manning, Montana drop back quarterback. We'll talk about this more as the season comes to a conclusion, but it is a chronic problem for the NFL right now. And when you talk about some of the teams that are still in the playoff hunt, it's amazing. Teams that the NFL added that 7th team, and it's added some drama. It's kept some teams in it, but I think you're going to see some pretty ugly 6 and 7 seeds with very possibly losing records making it to the postseason in the NFL. But it's an additional playoff game, and everybody loves it. No one's complaining about an additional playoff game as far as the people sitting in front of their sets on a given Sunday or Monday. Just a quick, if I might, Xander, bring up the standings here for week number 12 in the NFL. You see Philadelphia, the only 10-1 team. The Eagles are 4 games into this 6-game gauntlet now, and they are 4-0. And that is a tremendous, tremendous accomplishment by the Eagles. The Eagles are only the 2nd team. Sal Paolantonio sent me these stats. 10-1 for the 2nd consecutive season. Only the 4th team in NFL history to do it. The Eagles are really just an excellent, excellent organization right now. NFC North, Detroit loses that terrible Thanksgiving game, but so does Minnesota. Green Bay finally wins the game. They look better. San Francisco and Philadelphia, we're going to talk to Sal about this game extensively in the next few minutes. In the AFC, Miami at 8-3. Buffalo loses in Philadelphia, an excruciating loss for the Bills, who are now 6-6 and the 10th seed out of 16 teams in the AFC. Buffalo clearly not a 10 seed, but yet there they are. Jacksonville, the best in the AFC South. Baltimore at 9-3. We've talked about this forever. Baltimore, one of the great regular season franchises. And Kansas City wins in Vegas. The Chiefs are going to win that division. Maybe they found themselves another receiver in Rashid Rice. All right, Xander, thanks very much. Let's bring this gentleman on, and that, of course, would be the host of the NFL Matchup Show and a national correspondent for ESPN. Great to have him back. Sal Paolantonio, how you doing?
Pat, I'm doing great. I missed the show the last 2 weeks.
I know.
And I'm back for the final 6-week stretch here. Here we go. Let's do it.
Right. You were fine. I waived the fine, Sal, so you're good to go. All right. So, all right, listen, just your thoughts on Eagles-Bills quickly. And notably, what I wanted you to comment on is the Eagles defense gives up over 500 yards of offense to Buffalo. The Eagles 4 games into this 6-game gauntlet. Just give me a quick take on the defensive side of the ball where Philadelphia is right now.
Well, you got to play 60 minutes and in overtime in America when you're playing tackle football. So the Eagles have proven extraordinarily resilient in the second half. They have to clean up the first half, no question about that. But in the second half of the last 3 games, they have been brilliant, done some really good adjustments. And Jalen Hurts, I mean, he's like a 15-round fighter. You may land some punches in the first couple of rounds, but you better be sticking around and fighting hard in the last couple of rounds, because he's going to hit you and he's going to hit you hard. I think in the Bills game specifically and in the Chiefs game, the Eagles made plays that the Chiefs and the Bills did not. The Chiefs and the Bills had drop passes.
Right.
The Chiefs and the Bills were not on the same page in the passing game, especially in overtime. That miss in the end zone from Josh Allen to Gabe Davis,
right,
was one of the biggest goofs I've seen from a quarterback in overtime in a long, long time. And then the Eagles then to march down there. And they win the football game. And because Jalen Hurts basically played flawlessly, and the Eagles had a perfect design for that quarterback draw, quarterback run off a left tackle, where Jason Kelce kicks out and just buries the blitzing defensive back, and he just waltzes in untouched.
I know, just a great football.
What's pretty interesting is that Steve Spagnuolo showed the same exact blitz look, but didn't blitz the corner. And Sean McDermott is known for blitzing in the late quarters, especially the fourth quarter and in overtime. He gets impatient and he blitzes. He did that against the Chiefs in that divisional round playoff game, the epic one.
The epic 13-second one, you mean? Yeah.
The epic 13-second one, yep. And they played soft coverage off of Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and the Eagles, and Jalen Hurts took advantage of it. So it was good coaching, good adjustments, good execution, where the Bills did not have that. Hey, listen, Tom Brady and the Patriots had over 600 yards of offense and lost Super Bowl 52. It's been done, Pat.
That's true, Sal. That's fair response. Sal, tell me your thought. You mentioned a minute ago about the Eagles trailing at halftime. They're 5-0 this year when trailing at halftime. The rest of the NFL, and these are from your notes, the rest of the NFL is combined 35-129. So
35-129. What is that winning percentage?
213, Sal.
Pat, it's 213, and the Eagles are 5-0 during the same. That's unbelievable.
I know, but you know me, my jaundiced way. I always find the cloud outside the silver lining,
and you can see a cloud. There's definitely a cloud. What are they doing the first half?
Exactly right. I just wanted to get your take on that. What do you think's happening in the first half that they're able to correct so well in the locker room at halftime?
Well, first of all, this is living dangerously in the National Football League. They won't survive against San Francisco if they do that. It'll be very tough to come back against San Francisco. San Francisco is too well coached, and they have players who can beat you at all three levels. They're not going to be able to come back from 10 or 14 points in the fourth quarter like they did in the last two games. So there's that. So they have to fix what they're doing. The bottom line is, number one thing they have to fix. Pay attention to this, Pat. You can't have your defense on the field for 92 snaps. You have to have extended drives through the running game early in the game. We have seen Jalen Hurts drop back to throw in the first and second quarter to no avail. And even if you're not, even if the running game is not working, continue to pound at it until you get it to work. Now, they had 44 carries in the NFC Championship game against the Niners. So the Niners are squawking that they lost the game because Brock Purdy was knocked out of the game.
I know. Yeah.
All right. So, I think the Niners have to do things differently to beat the Eagles in this game. And I think one of them is obvious: protect Brock Purdy.
Right. So let's leave it there. When we get back from this break, we're going to finish up with Sal Pao. We're going to go through both sides of the ball. And this is a huge game. I mean, this is just a huge game because I want to talk to Sal about how has this become the new rivalry in the NFC, and have the 49ers, in fact, been waiting 10 months to play this game.
I got a stat that's going to blow your audience away about this game and what it means for the Niners, and I'll give it to you on the other side.
All right, we'll do that with the great Sal Paolantonio. We'll look out at the next 6 weeks. We'll do all that when we get back here on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Kennedy Ford.
Celebrate your victories in style at Spring Mill Country Club. From Eagles wins to baby showers, weddings to birthdays, our picturesque venue is ready to host your special events. Make memories that last a lifetime in our stunning surroundings. Call Spring Mill today at 215-675-6000 and elevate your next event to unforgettable heights. Contact us now to book 215-675-6000.
John Kennedy Ford. Their reputation sounded too good to be true, so my partner and I decided to do a little digging.
They know we can see them, right?
We could get them a great deal if they just come inside.
They made us. Run! Uncovering a better car buying experience is easy at John Kennedy Ford. Enjoy your ride.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio, or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
Welcome back this week in pro football. Pat Callahan here on JAKIB Sports with great Sal Paolantonio back in the saddle here. And Sal, you had teased a stat that you said would really galvanize our viewers here, talking about Sunday's game and the Eagles' opponent, San Francisco.
Pat, this is an absolute must-win game for the San Francisco 49ers. If they lose this game, the FPI, Football Power Index, that we put out has their percentages of getting the number one seed below 3%.
Okay. Right.
Below 3%. And the Eagles' chances of getting the number one seed if they win the game is above 98%.
How about that? Yeah. That's how big this game is, Sal. I think that is a hell of a
It's much, much bigger for the Niners now.
Agreed. It is.
Much bigger. Much bigger. Now, and that's one thing that could work in the Eagles' advantage. If the Niners come in all chesty, huffing and puffing into South Philadelphia and, start throwing it all over the place and get antsy about losing the game, that could really play into the Eagles' favor, I think.
All right. Well, I expect, Sal, that that's exactly what they are going to do. Would you agree with me that the 49ers have been pointing to this game for 10 months as a way to seek revenge for what they perceived as an unlevel playing field last year?
Well, I don't see how it was an unlevel playing field.
Oh, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Hurts was protected. Right. Brock Purdy was not.
Right.
You had a wide receiver, a tight end. I forget what it was. A tight end in motion.
Yeah.
From left to right.
Yeah.
And he is supposed to intercept Hassan Reddick, who's just like Ferdinand the Bull coming after the flowers and that famous story.
Right.
I mean, geez, Pat, it was the worst protection plan for the most important game of the year by one of the smartest coaches. And he had an inexperienced quarterback who stands in there and takes the hit and winds up busting up his right arm. I mean, if they don't protect Brock Purdy, they're going to have the same problem. So they got to protect Brock Purdy. That's number one. And they got to stop the Eagles' run.
Right.
I mean, if Sirianni is as smart as we think he is, and this coaching staff is as smart as we think they are, they can look around their locker room and see that Fletcher Cox is not practicing. Zach Cunningham is not practicing. Right. Wayne Johnson just got back onto the practice field.
Right.
Dallas Goedert is still out.
Right.
You had 92 snaps played. I mean, Reed Blankenship played something like 116 snaps in the game against Buffalo in overtime. So if you're not dominating the line of scrimmage, which you can do because you have the best offensive line in football, and controlling the clock and field position, you're losing this game. That's it.
All right. Well, there you have it. The 92 snaps now you've mentioned, right? That's the number of defensive snaps the Eagles took last week against Josh Allen. Now, there's a huge difference between Josh Allen and Brock Purdy. So, I mean, the Eagles, I agree with you. Offensively, the Eagles have to win this game, Sal, I think, on the offensive side of the ball by substantially shortening the clock. Do you think that Sirianni will have the patience to stick to that run game?
I hope that he does. I hope that he and Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts looked at it and said, all right, these are the runs that we ran last year against San Francisco. Their defense is, pretty much the same, although they brought in Hargrave. He hasn't had a great year. And they recently traded for the defensive end from Washington. Yeah. So, they've tried to upgrade their D-line because they have been gashed in the run game this season. So test them again and keep testing them.
Right.
Make sure you stay on the field with sustained drives. Keep them in difficult field position. It's a field position and time of possession game, I think.
Right.
I think Brock Purdy is playing at a very high level. As you know, he's not turning the ball over like Josh Allen is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And but the 49ers, well, I was going to say like the Eagles, but it's not true. The Eagles, as we just talked about, 5 times this year have trailed at half. The Niners rarely are trailing. They enjoy beating the hell out of whoever they're playing. And I think that allows that defensive line to really tee off. I don't think it's a great defensive line against the run. Their statistics are gaudy because most teams are not running against them, Sal, because they're usually down by 10 or 17 points in the second half. I think if the Eagles commit to that run and really impose their will on that offensive line, that's how to beat this team.
Yeah. Here's how I would put it, Pat. You mentioned the gauntlet. So they still have 3 games left of this gauntlet, in my view. They still have 3 games left.
Yeah.
Dallas is going to be a tough game. They're turning right around and going to Seattle. Those are 2 tough road trips to do right after playing the games that they have. The next 3 games will be the big test, in my view. I mean, that's to me. If you're going to ask me what are the 6 things to go, 6 things to watch with 6 weeks to go, I think the number one thing is, can the Eagles survive these final 3 games of the gauntlet that they are in? Right. And all they have to do is win, in my view, 1 of the 3. They don't have to sweep it. If they go 2-1, it would be great. But they have to avoid losing all 3.
Agreed. The Eagles, they deserve a ton of credit, Sal, for being 4-0 through this gauntlet so
Absolutely.
far. Okay. We're into the 6 weeks now. 6 things to happen over 6 weeks. Let me jump one in here. Is the Dallas Cowboys, boy, they look great. There's no question about it. I think Dak Prescott is having his best year. And I'll tell you what the catalyst was, Sal. I think when they got dusted by San Francisco, they threw that offensive playbook out the window and started over. And I think it's been much to Prescott's benefit, but they still haven't beaten anyone, Sal. So the second of my NFC things is, can Dallas prove that it really belongs with the big boys? And can Dallas, that the best they're going to do, Sal, is a 5 seed, but can they actually get themselves primed to make a deep playoff run?
The combined record of the teams the Cowboys have beaten is .308. They won. The teams that they have beaten have a winning record of 30% of their games.
Right.
The Eagles, it's 4.70. The Niners, it's 4.89. By the way. Yeah. And you know what kickstarted this Cowboys run? They played the Giants, the Panthers, and the Commanders.
Yeah, that certainly helps. That helps when you're playing those kind of teams. They get Seattle this week.
So yeah, I mean, I agree. That's the second thing. Can the Cowboys beat somebody?
Yes. And they're going to get their chance. They got Philadelphia. They still have to go to Buffalo, which could be a desperate team by then. So Dallas is going to get its chance.
Philly, go to Buffalo, and I do believe they have to go to Miami too.
Yeah, so Dallas still has a tough road ahead of them and I don't think they're going to catch Philadelphia, but they have a chance to do it, Sal, because if the Eagles stumble Sunday, the Cowboys could tie the Eagles. But you're right. They go Philadelphia, then at Buffalo, then at Miami, then they host Detroit on a Saturday. So it's much tougher stretch run for the Cowboys than they've enjoyed.
This Eagles team, Pat, is so tough-minded. You haven't heard anything from this Eagles locker room about any of the challenges that they have faced. And you've heard from a lot of other teams in the NFL. They squawk, they whine about things. The Eagles don't. It's a very tough-minded team that comes from 2 coaches' sons. Nick Sirianni's a coach's son. Jalen Hurts is a coach's son. These guys have been coached all their life at home and on the playing field by coaches who will give them no quarter. There's no crying on the yacht, that kind of stuff. I don't want to hear anybody complaining. There's no crying and complaining on the yacht. Right. And I've met Sirianni's dad. He is one serious dude. He's a cancer survivor. I have not met Avarian Hurts, but from what I've seen and read about him, also pretty tough. And of course, he coached Brian Johnson, the offensive coordinator, as well, down there at Channelview High School in Texas. So it's a pretty tough mind out. In the AFC, Pat, I got three things.
Go ahead.
Is this Broncos winning streak for real? Now they go on the road. They lead the NFL in takeaways. They are now turning their offense around. Sean Payton has pulled a Bill Parcells, got tough with them early. Now sort of preaching them, hey, it's what we're doing is good. It's a classic Bill Parcells type of approach to a team. Take away all the toys and then let them have a little bit back, little bit by little bit. Right. Have a little bit of the praise. So I think if the Broncos stay on this course, you could see them make a big run for the playoffs. The other one is that the Chiefs got to have home field advantage.
It's fine. Here you go. You just took it. Go ahead. Lay it out because that was one of mine. I was just about to say it. Go ahead.
No, they have to have home field advantage.
Right.
They can't take that team on the road and win. They can't go to Baltimore and win. I don't think they can go to Denver and win, Pat.
Yeah. Yep. And the flip side of that, Sal, but this is not really a 6-week thing, but clearly the AFC is the Baltimore Ravens. I have lampooned them all season long as one of the great regular season teams of all time.
Yeah.
Can the Ravens get that number 1 seed away from Kansas City so that at least they could get a diminished Chiefs team into Baltimore for a potential AFC title game, as opposed to people going to Arrowhead? And it just seems like Kansas City's almost unbeatable.
I'm with you, Pat. They're a great regular season team, and here's the difference. I have covered big championship games in Baltimore and big championship games in Kansas City. The atmosphere at Arrowhead, or whatever it's called now, is much, much better than it is in Baltimore. The Chiefs have a much greater home field advantage, especially in the postseason, than the Ravens do. M&T Bank Stadium is not menacing like Lincoln Financial Field. It's not super loud like Arrowhead. So, they're not – but listen, they have such a balanced defense and such a balanced offense and so many playmakers on both sides of the ball that I think even if Lamar Jackson has a C-plus game instead of a B-plus or A-minus game, they probably go to the Super Bowl if they have home field advantage because they only have to win 2 games. And the last thing is I watched that Black Friday game, and man, oh man, the Dolphins are fooling around. I don't know what the Dolphins are doing, but they got to get their act together. Too many turnovers. Even Kirk Herbstreit talked about it. Yeah. Just no good, Pat.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but they're not being held accountable to take care of the football.
I think, Sal, I would say to you, I think Miami in the AFC, I think Detroit in the NFC, I just don't attach any significance to them making a deep run. I don't see it. I think in the NFC, Philadelphia, San Francisco, possibly Dallas, but I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. And the AFC, it's up to the Ravens to get to knock the Chiefs out.
Pat, keep your eye on the ball. We're only talking about the regular season now. The final 6 weeks, Pat. It's This Week in Pro Football. That's the name of the show, Pat. Come on.
Fair enough. One last thing before I let you go. The Eagles and 49ers. Would you christen this as maybe the next big rivalry in the NFC? There does seem to be a lot of bad blood here.
Well, I mean, after what happened in the championship game and the fact that they had the NFL change the rules so you could have a third quarterback, maybe they're anticipating getting to that third quarterback on Sunday afternoon in Philadelphia. I don't know.
We'll see. I know
they have run the angst right up the flagpole, haven't they, Pat?
Well, I know you will be there and look forward to the matchup show this weekend. I know you'll be doing some substantial analysis on this game. This is the game of the week in week number 13. So I look forward to the matchup show Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, we're going to have some big here's another TV tease for you, Pat. We're going to have some big surprises Sunday morning on ESPN from that game. Tune in. Don't miss it.
All right. Excellent. We won't miss it, Sal, and thank you very much for coming back and joining me, and look forward to having you right through this stretch run here, this gauntlet we have on This Week in Pro Football. Sal Pal, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Pat.
All right. Great Sal Paolantonio joining me right there. Always an excellent discussion with Sal, who's always come to the table extremely well informed. So that was great. Okay. We get back here, we'll segue a little bit. A gentleman who is equally well-informed in his particular field, and that would be the great Sean Green, will join me. We're going to talk props and numbers. And, of course, we'll focus on San Francisco traveling to Philadelphia. We will do that next on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Kennedy Ford.
Discover the essence of true community banking with First Bank, your trusted partner across eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Their network of branches brings you convenient access to dedicated personal bankers who understand your unique needs. At First Bank, you're not just a customer, you're a valued member of the community. But that's not all. They are excited to join forces with another pillar of the community banking world in eastern Pennsylvania, Malvern Bank. Their team of professionals will fit seamlessly into First Bank's culture of dedication and understanding your financial aspirations to fuel your success. With a deep-rooted commitment to eastern Pennsylvania, Malvern Bank stands as a testament to community values and unwavering support. Experience the difference of real relationships and dedicated personal bankers. Connect with any member of the team today at our Westchester office, conveniently located at 849 Paoli Pike, or you can call them directly at 484-881-3800. First Bank is an equal opportunity lender and member FDIC. At Whistler Pearlstein LLP, we assemble the most effective team to handle all of your legal needs. There are players and pretenders, but our hustle and heart set us apart. In practice now for over 75 years, we're proud to be one of the most prominent full-service law firms in the Philadelphia region. We offer 17 different areas of practice, including business, corporate, and tax education law, real estate, zoning, and land development, municipal law, and litigation. Our top-rated attorneys and staff are laser-focused on client success. We strive to provide outstanding legal counsel with the highest level of care and consideration. Let us show you the Whistler way. Learn more at WhistlerPearlstein.com or email Michael J. O'Donohue at mod@WhisPearl.com. WhistlerPearlstein.com or mod@WhisPearl.com.
I want to be a game changer in construction. I want to be able to provide diversity in the workforce, and it starts at the top. I started Rodriguez Construction Group in 2013 with 2 employees, and we're 85 strong today. M&T has been a great partner since day one, providing us the access, the opportunity, the funding to be able to continue our growth. We can change the community in a positive way, one person at a time, one job at a time, and one family at a time. I think M&T Bank is very committed to the community, just like us.
Welcome back to This Week in Pro Football, here week number 13, the National Football League. The great Sean Green, presented by the good folks at Live Hotel, Restaurant, Casino. Sean, how you doing, pal?
Doing good. Another crazy stomach-churning game where I'm screaming and yelling the entire game and
I know
all these bets. And
I tell you, Sean, I didn't have you last week. I was convinced they were going to lose to Buffalo, not because I wanted them to, but I just thought they're just not going to run the table on this 6 games. And Buffalo ran up 500 yards of offense on the Eagles. But, boy, this is one resilient football team here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, when we did the preseason, wins and losses, I thought they were going to lose that game against the Bills because it was such a letdown spot, right? Going into Kansas City on Monday night, then a short week, and especially after that emotional, physical game in KC, to come back and play that game against the Bills. I picked the Eagles. I always pick the Eagles. But when we did the preseason, I thought it would be a letdown spot, and it kind of was, at least in the first half. But, hats off to Jalen Hurts, Jake Elliott, and just this team in general. Their will to win is just something awesome to watch.
It really is impressive. I think you're right. Will to win is a good way. Sal described it as just a team that just doesn't get flustered. They just don't. They don't get flustered by whatever's going on. One thing about that game that I wanted to mention, too, I'm sure you saw this, Sean. This is from Ed Werder. The Bills were the 40th team since the merger to have over 500 total yards, win the turnover margin, have 10 third down conversions. Who the hell came up with this stat? Have 10 third down conversions, and they're the first to lose. I mean, that's hard to do. Lose a game when you win the stats that way, right?
Yeah, and the Eagles must have set a record right now for games won where they lost the turnover battle, because they get and I think coming back to that tush push that everyone likes to talk about, that really does help you get some extra possessions. If you can get 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, if you can get those first downs and stay on the field, it helps cover up some of the warts of some bad turnovers or of the defensive struggles.
Well, Sean, this is you can lose the turnover battle to Arizona or Washington or the New York Giants. I don't recommend you do it against this bunch, the San Francisco. I talked to Sal about the fact I think the Niners have been waiting 10 months to play this game. Do you think that plays into, and what else, in your opinion, plays into the notion that San Francisco is a 3-point favorite here?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, right? I still don't understand why the market is valuing San Francisco this much. I mean, even if you say, now the modern home field advantage isn't quite 3 points. So maybe you say home field advantage is worth 2.5 points. So that would mean on a neutral field, the San Francisco 49ers are 5.5 or maybe 6-point favorites. So you're telling me if this game was in San Francisco, the line would be 8, maybe even 7.5 points. Like that just doesn't make sense to me. Jalen Hurts is 27-2 straight up in his last 29 games as an Eagles starter, and they're at home. It is the NFL. Anything can happen, but the Eagles certainly are a little banged up. 49ers playing with extra rest. But you look at some of the matchups. I think they have a better quarterback. I think they have a better head coach. I think their offensive line, knock on wood, Lane Johnson doesn't pull a groin in the middle of the night, and he's okay to go. I think they have a lot of edges here. Now, San Francisco probably a little bit better defense, but, that defense they faced in Kansas City was pretty high level, and they went in there and got the job done. So I know they have Christian McCaffrey. I know he's a better running back than anything the Eagles have, but A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, Debo is interesting as a player, but I don't think he's quite as good as an overall pass catcher.
Have an advantage there because you throw in Kittle, and the Eagles may not have Goddard again. Then San Francisco is their equal there. I think the 49ers, I didn't get a chance to talk to Sal about this. We have so much to talk about, so I'll waste your time with it. I think the Eagles need to just strangle Christian McCaffrey, figuratively speaking.
Yeah,
they need to make Brock Purdy win this game. Don't let McCaffrey, who I don't know. No one gets a clean shot on him. I know
he is. It's like his dad too. If you remember Easy Ed McCaffrey back in the day from the Lehigh Valley, he was tough to get a clean shot on. And
I'd love to see an Eagle send an early message to Christian McCaffrey. This ain't your day. I think that would have a lot to do with it. But I think that's where the Eagles got to concentrate, because they can't let another team run up a 500-yard bogey on them and expect to win. Now, give me some notable props that you saw, Sean, in this game that you like, Eagles-Niners.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go back to the A.J. Brown. He has had relatively quiet games back to back. I think A.J. Brown to score a touchdown at plus 125. I like that. And as good as the San Francisco defense is, you can take advantage of their outside cornerbacks there a little bit. And so 73.5 passing yards, I think, for A.J. Brown's a little bit low. You can always, Pat, if you're looking to win money and, take out your 401k and just keep rolling it over on the Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. It's, minus 130. If they start making it minus 200, maybe I won't play it. But until then, he's their goal line back, and especially, the 49ers are pretty good to the run. And DeAndre Swift dealing with an ankle thing, I think they might have a little trouble establishing the run here. So I like A.J. Brown. I like Jalen Hurts on the ground. And then you want to go dart throw, Julio Jones, anytime touchdown. If Goddard isn't playing, I think Zacchaeus and Julio, you can get cute there maybe with some long shot stuff. All
right. But I think Philadelphia has to run the ball. It's interesting you mentioned that about Swift. I'm sure he'll play, but the Eagles have to run the ball well to win this game. And I said to Sal, the Niners are terrific at being ahead by 14, then their front four tees off, and and they're high five and all that other stuff they do. But Don't let them do it. Don't let them get up by 14. Win the clock. I think that's how Philadelphia has to do this. Sean, wanted to ask of this. I went on a rant earlier in the show about the quarterback in the NFL. You and I have talked about it all season long. 15 of the 32 teams last week scored less than 20 points. It's amazing, Sean. Some of those games. Did you watch the Monday night game? They should have sentenced people maybe to save jail time. You can either have 6 months or you're going to watch endless replays of Chicago, Minnesota. And I don't know which they would pick because but the quarterbacking and there's no end in sight, in my opinion, to the unders winning. Do you see it any different?
Yeah, I mean, the unders continue to be a very profitable bet. I would say, at least with this week, they are bringing the numbers down a little bit. I mean, we're seeing 33s, we're seeing 34s. I mean, this is like Iowa, Nebraska numbers, but you can't, like Falcons, Jets. Can you talk yourself into an over there? It's like 33.5, but how could you bet the over? You're going to be pulling, I don't have much hair left. I can't risk pulling it out watching that game, betting it over.
Oh my God. I don't know either. I'm looking at some of these games, and I just see teams like Cincinnati, Jacksonville. I mean, Cincinnati, they look bereft of offense right now. Yeah. Without the Joe Burrow, so many other teams like it that I think it's really tough to play the overs. But look at that, 33 points. That was who, Falcons and Jets?
Yeah, I'll double check, but I think it was as low as 33.5.
Oh, the Jets are good for 6. I mean, that's it. That's their ceiling. So,
yeah.
Oh my God, that's brutal.
Oh, it's up to 34. So yeah, I guess.
There you go.
I guess some people are
jumped all over that one. Yeah, when it's 3-0 at half, we'll see. 2 other games I thought were of interest, Sean. I wanted to get your take on Kansas City at Green Bay. Great uniform matchup and a
classic first Super Bowl.
Yes, but Kansas City, Green Bay finally wins one. They look good doing it. Kansas City a 6-point number here, Sean. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this one is one of the tougher ones. I mean, it's kind of a tough slate, honestly. But I did end up pulling the trigger, picking Kansas City here, laying the points. It could be a potential letdown spot. I know their offense has struggled a bit, but I mean, Green Bay is still super banged up. Jair Alexander still not practicing. Aaron Jones probably won't go there. And this, I know Jordan Love has looked better, but yeah. You have to factor in the competition a little bit with the Detroit Lions defense, who kind of getting exposed. And this Chiefs defense is still pretty good. You could talk me into it maybe being a letdown spot for Kansas City, but the fact that it's on Sunday Night Football prime time, I think they end up getting.
I don't think that guy, that 15 on Kansas City, is ever going to let down about anything. I don't think. You mentioned Detroit. The sorry performance nationally. I thought that was a coming out game for Detroit.
I know.
They were exposed by a very middling Green Bay offense. Detroit now goes to New Orleans. They're a 4.5 point favorite. I don't trust Jared Goff giving points on the road. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Jared Goff, I mean, I really hate this guy because for years I was killing him, and then he starts looking good. And finally, I have this jinx of finally when I concede and go, you know what, guys, I was wrong about Jared Goff. Then boom, 3 interceptions, boom, 3 fumbles. And I go, I can't go back. I just said, all right, I guess he's good.
I know.
They are in a dome. The Saints do struggle against the slot receiver. The Saints are incredibly banged up, but it's 4.5 points. I really have trouble trusting Jared Goff on the road. And those 2 bad performances against the Bears and against the Packers, those are division games at home. And we saw them play this poorly. Now you go on the road. I think you got to take the Saints in the points.
All right. And then the last one is San Francisco, Philadelphia. I know where you're going, but you feel strongly that the Eagles getting the points is a good
insult. I'll say this. I mean, the Eagles, the entire team is aware of the number. They're aware they're dogs. I wouldn't be surprised we see the return of the dog mess into that electric environment in Lincoln Financial Field. And everyone's talking about the motivation, Pat, of the 49ers, and they've been chirping and they got this date circled as if the Eagles also don't have this date circled. They're not giving out the bulletin board material, but Jason Kelsey on WIP the other day said, I have never seen a regular season game this hyped up. And Kelsey's been around for a long time. So that to me signals the players in the locker room know what's at stake. They want to get this number 1 seed locked up. I think that first half of the Buffalo Bills game was their letdown spot looking ahead to this game.
Fair enough.
I think you're going to get the Eagles' best shot here.
I hope so. I'm unabashed.
You hate the 49ers.
I'm unabashed. I'd like to see the Eagles run up a 42-3 job on this bunch. I cannot stand them. But
you and me both.
Yeah, that's so. All right, Sean Green, where does everybody find you? God knows where you are this week, and I know where you'll be at 4:25 Eastern Standard Time here.
I'll be locked in watching the Eagles game. Yeah, just Sports Gambling Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube. We're doing tons of NFL, college football, even some daily college basketball stuff as well. Bunch of free picks. Just sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Can't miss us there. And Pat, always appreciate it. And let's go Birds. Screw the Niners, right?
Right. This is 1 week, Sean, where I'm with you 100%. I know you'll be watching the Rams. You won't be watching the Eagles. You'll probably be watching Rams, Browns. I know.
I'm not locked in.
All right, Sean Green, thank you very much, pal. It was great. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving too, Sean. Thanks.
You too. Take it easy, Pat.
All right. Great Sean Green there. Let's bring on, after this break, we're going to bring on Justin Bruni. We're going to talk some fantasy football week 13. I can't wait to hear who Justin's recommending at quarterback. I've just trashed half the league. We'll see if he's got some nuggets for us here on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Kennedy Ford.
I got everything you need.
Anything can happen when you go live.
I got everything you need. There's no trouble, don't mean a thing. Snap your fingers and I'm on the scene. Don't mean a thing. Snap your fingers and I'm on the scene.
Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia, voted best casino in Pennsylvania.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio, or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
John Kennedy Ford. Their reputation sounded too good to be true, so my partner and I decided to do a little digging.
They know we can see them, right?
We could get them a great deal if they just come inside.
They made us. Run!
Uncovering a better car buying experience is easy at John Kennedy Ford. Enjoy your ride.
Johnny Apple's Restaurant and Bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's Restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
Welcome back again. We This Week in Pro Football here on JAKIB Media Sports. At Callahan joining you. Don't forget, give me a follow at TWIPFPat on X, and you can follow the network at JAKIB Sports. You can also follow this guy at SGPN. There he is, JB, Justin Bruni. Justin, how you doing?
Doing good, sir. Doing good. Happy Thursday. Excited for some football tonight.
Yes. My Cowboys. I say my Cowboys because I have Dak Prescott, Brandon Aubrey, and the Dallas defense that I have been carrying me for the past month. But aside from that, Justin, let's start with the quarterbacks, the great lunar landscape that is quarterbacking in the National Football League. I was, of course, trying to jump all over you after that Monday night game as a Chicago Bear fan. And it was funny, Justin, to see.
There was nothing funny about it, Pat. There's nothing funny about that game.
I mean, to see him walk off the field, you'd have thought he'd just thrown 5 touchdown passes and 385 yards. Yes, you got the win. You got the win. He did get him down the field at the end of that game. Shockingly, it didn't turn it over. Oh, my God.
I think DJ Moore had a lot to do with it as well. I mean, that last catch that put him in the position to kick the final field goal, I think that was a lot of DJ Moore as well. I mean, he's just been completely sure-handed. He's got 1 drop on the season with 90-plus targets. He's been a fantastic addition.
Can the NFL outlaw the bubble screen? I mean, can we do that?
No.
I mean, oh, my God.
Maybe something about play calling, like 3 in a row, something like that. Like you might be able to work that in, but yeah, you can't get rid of a play.
I mean, but the number of quarterbacks I see doing nothing but stepping back and throwing that ball out to a wide receiver that is immediately assaulted by 2 defensive backs, and you got 2nd and 11, 2nd and 10 and a half, whatever you get. I just think it's ridiculous. You can see
we had Eckler and Keenan Allen running the hook and ladder as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right. But quarterbacking, tell me something in your top 10. Give me a name. Like, let me give you a couple here and tell me if you've actually not got these guys into your top 10. Remember, it's a 6 teams on a bye.
Mm-hmm.
Did Jordan Love make your top 10 this week?
Sit candidate this week. I'm sitting Jordan Love. He's had 2 very good weeks, but Kansas City has been good up against quarterbacks in fantasy consistently this season. They're top 10 in the NFL for fewest fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. Jordan Love's a big sit candidate so he'd be outside my top 10.
Here's another guy, Justin, who's been tearing it up by throwing the ball between 1.5 and 3 feet per attempt, and that's Russell Wilson. Does he make the Justin Bruni top 10?
Lock it down. I don't know about top 10. It's a very good game this week. Him and CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, QB 5 on the season. Russell Wilson, QB 12. So I mean, I definitely think he's in that top 10 conversation. I guess for this week, that matchup should be very good. Both of those quarterbacks have been the most efficient in the NFL this season, outside of maybe Dak Prescott.
I'd love to see him. Wilson did not stop being a good quarterback. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, he all of a sudden didn't forget how to play. And he's got I tell you, that is an underrated receiver he's got in Cortland Sutton. And
absolutely. When healthy, Sutton is fantastic.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of it was just no connection between Nathaniel Hackett and Russ Wilson last season. They were just not on the same page.
Oh, Nathaniel Hackett. Boy, there's a guy. You're talking about a guy that is stealing money, Nathaniel Hackett. But anyway, and let me give you one more quarterback name, and that is we were laughing about him or shaking our heads anyway about him with Sean the last segment. Jared Goff. The old Jared showed up Thanksgiving Day against Green Bay. How do you like him this Sunday at New Orleans?
Tough matchup. I don't like sending my quarterbacks out in fantasy up against the Saints, but I still feel that Jared Goff has had a good enough season where I'm going to continue to start him and believe that he does bounce back from these previous 2 poor starts. Relatively, he's still been very good through his last 20-plus games played with the Lions. So I'm going to continue to trust him. They have a very good offensive line and a very good run game. I think they lean on that a little bit more this week. And you see Jared Goff maybe, less volume, maybe less passing volume. Maybe you see less yards as well, but maybe a little bit more efficient this week.
All right. Justin Bruni, I'm going to hit you with a bunch of team names. And I know I've been ranting about this, but it's actually a serious question. Bears, Patriots, Giants, Bengals, Titans, Panthers, Cardinals, Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any type of bona fide reason to play anybody from those teams this week or in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, going with a few of them that we've talked about. Garrett Wilson for sure. I'm still firing him up with God. Even bad quarterback play. There's numbers there. There's targets and there's catches.
Are you in a league where a receiver gets 70 points for a touchdown? I mean, Garrett Wilson, he catches 3 balls for 15 yards. The way these guys play quarterback,
he gets a lot of targets. If you check out his numbers, he's consistently getting double digits in fantasy. Again, it's you have to be playing like PPR. If you're in a standard league, maybe he is more of a sit candidate. But Stevenson, it's very hard for me to sit Ramondre still. I think that he is in that flex conversation. So. Yeah, you may have better options. If you drafted maybe like Brian Robinson late, maybe you've hit on Gus Edwards and you have availability, at depth at running back. Not a lot of people usually do though this late in the year. So if you have him, I'm starting him most likely. The Bears, I'm still firing up DJ Moore. I don't think this week was a very good week for Khalil Herbert. And of course, you're still starting Fields and Cole Kmet, just where they're at in, comparison to the rest of their position. We've talked about how barren the quarterback position has been this year. Justin Fields provides you with a lot of upside with his rushing ability. Cole Kmet, he isn't sexy every week. He's a boom and bust type of fantasy player, but because of his overall production and his ranking at the tight end position, you're still firing him up. What were a few of the other teams?
I would guess, you can't really ever sit Derrick Henry in Tennessee, but he's the only tight end. No. As Adam Thielen is your only possible Panther. Agreed?
Yeah. Bryce Young, for the first handful of games, he was in that quarterback 1, quarterback 2 conversation, kind of going back and forth. Right. Not so much anymore. He's definitely hit a decline. I don't think that getting rid of the quarterbacks coach is going to help much. So
I don't. I just think that's the old lipstick on a pig thing. There.
Deflection. Yeah, deflection.
Yeah, and I just throw your offensive coordinator under the bus, just like Pittsburgh did. And now Pittsburgh has a juicier matchup at home against Arizona. Can we possibly, Justin, get maybe 2 TD passes out of Kenny Pickett, or is that asking way too much?
Yeah, one of them's probably going to Pat Freiermuth. I have no objection to any single Steeler this week. George Pickens has put together some decent weeks now. Freiermuth had his best week of the season, returning healthy. Deontay Johnson has looked better. I know he's got some slack in the media and from his teammates for putting on that play. That was, that did not make for a good Monday for him. So I'm sure that he felt that, and I'm expecting him to probably bounce back to kind of show like, hey, I'm still that dude. There's been a lot of disrespect on Deontay Johnson's name in the last year, that this guy's washed. He's not good. Oh, the system doesn't fit him anymore. I still believe in Deontay Johnson. So I definitely want to fire up all those guys this week, especially Kenny Pickett, who has a matchup up against the Arizona Cardinals, 3rd most fantasy points allowed per game to the quarterback position. And they're playing Arizona at home, getting in a West Coast team traveling to the East Coast. Yeah. Bad weather out here. Good situation for the Steelers.
I could see this. If the weather isn't atrocious, I could see this being a coming out party for Pittsburgh, where they could actually lay some points on Arizona.
They got some bad snow recently, no?
Yeah, and but I know the Eagle game here in Philadelphia is going to be 50-some degrees and rains. I imagine you get some rain in Pittsburgh, but
something, yeah.
I just think Arizona, I can't imagine they're going to shut the bus off. They're going to leave it idling during the game so they can get the hell out of there quick. But and then I guess the last thing I'm going to ask you, Justin, is are you feeling better? You mentioned before your Jordan Love was a sit candidate. We actually had a Christian Watson sighting last week, and I couldn't believe it. And the Rams, Matt Stafford throws 4 TD passes, none to Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua. Do you feel any better, though, about those 2 teams' receivers coming into this week?
No, definitely not. Definitely not the Rams. Going up against Cleveland, who has been a nightmare for wide receivers, not feeling good about them whatsoever. Who did you say the other team was? Arizona?
No, Green Bay. I know you.
Green Bay. No. I still not high on those guys. If I'm starting somebody, it's Reed or Dobbs. That's it. I still do not believe in Christian Watson.
There's too many of them anyway, so it's hard to like even one of them because they're trotting out, and you just never know who's going to win the day on a given day.
Those 2 have just been more consistent across the course of the season. I wasn't high on Watson. We've talked about this before. Like, I've gotten my little sprinkle shares here and there, drafting 200 plus teams, but very minute shares of Christian Watson. If I'm believing in Deontay Johnson, I do not believe in Christian Watson.
All right. Well, you shouldn't be believing in Deontay Johnson, but that's for another day. Where do we find Justin Bruni this weekend so I can hit you with my usual fusillade of last-minute questions, JB?
At SGPNJB on the Twitter, and you can find us on the YouTubes at SGPN Fantasy Football.
All right, excellent. Well done, Justin. Thank you very much. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you next week for some playoff talk, all right?
You as well, sir. Thank you.
All right. Justin Bruni joining me. All right, and we get back here this week in pro football. Angelo Cataldi is going to join us. The 30-plus year veteran of the radio wars here in Philadelphia. But before that, he covered the Eagles for the Philadelphia Inquirer. So we'll talk with Angelo about his new book and about what he has seen, the evolution of pro football from when he first started covering it. We're going to do all that next on This Week in Pro Football.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
Evolution Energy Partners has helped hundreds of businesses save millions of dollars on their energy spend. They offer electricity and gas procurement strategies, efficiency audits and engineering and financing solutions, as well as online utility bill management. To learn how your business can save, visit www.evolutionep.com or contact Chuck Herschella at 610-329-8288. Evolution Energy Partners, energy solutions to improve your bottom line.
Hi, welcome back this week in Pro Football Week number 13 in the National Football League. And let's bring this gentleman in, Xander. That would be a longtime radio host from WIP, AM and FM, and the author of a new book called Loud. How a Shy Nerd Came to Philadelphia and Turned Up the Volume in the Most Passionate Sports City in America. And that's Angelo Cataldi. Angelo, thanks very much for joining us.
Hey, Pat, thank you for inviting me. I know you've been on at this a long time, and it's an honor to finally get on with you.
All right. I appreciate that, Angelo, very much. And congratulations on the book. I have read the book, and it didn't take me long to read it. This is an excellent Christmas gift for any sports fan in the Philadelphia area. I heartily recommend you go out and get it. What prompted you to write it?
I did 33 years at WIP Radio, Philadelphia sports. Oh my God, those fans are nuts. And I just wanted to add to the narrative about Philadelphia sports fans because we know they're crazy. There was an incident Sunday. Shaq Lawson of the Bills got in the face of a fan and shoved him. Yeah. And you know what the national reaction to that was? Well, I can't imagine what that Philadelphia fan said to him to get him that mad. Right. That's right. I'm not going to hide from any of that. I was part of it. We booed McNabb at the draft in 1999. I was one of the maestros of this mania. But there's another side to it, Pat, that nobody talks about, and it's how the fans step up when you need them for something. We did radiothons every year. We exceeded the goal every single year. The best example I got a caller on my show who called it. He's a regular caller, and he goes, I'm going for kidney dialysis. I might not get to see my kids grow up. By the end of the show, 2 hours, Pat, 28 people got on a list for organ donations. Wow. One of them led to his organ donation and saved his life. Nobody ever tells you about that side of the Philadelphia sports fan. That's what I try to do in the book.
Well, it's a very enjoyable read, very enjoyable and written in a great style. I always knew you were a terrific interviewer, the way you conducted your interviews, because whatever lunacy was happening on that show, when the interview time came, I always felt that you kind of switched over to more of an Edward R. Murrow type of situation. But I always thought you conducted them extremely well. And we're going to, in a few minutes, I want to hit you with a bunch of names, and you can tell me how those went. But let me ask you this first, because you were talking about the fans. Why is it, in your opinion, that pro football and obviously the Philadelphia Eagles are the king of all sports in Philadelphia by such a wide margin?
Oh, it's been that way since Buddy Ryan. It was a fair battle in Philadelphia between the Eagles and the Phillies before that, but Buddy Ryan just took it to another level. Even though he didn't win anything, he resonated with the fans so much. And as sports have evolved, more and more people have just gotten it, fallen in love with football. I was a baseball fan most of my life, and now I'm football wall to wall. I mean, the one thing I can never miss is an NFL Sunday. I love it. And I think it's because it matches the blue collar physicality of our city. more than it ever has before. Other sports have softened. NFL, you can still ring a bell once in a while. People love it in our city.
Right. Right. I think so. And the Eagles, you're right. And even before your arrival here, I can vouch unfortunately, as a senior citizen, I don't call myself that, but it's a fact. The Eagles always had it. And Angelo, they were 2-12, 3-11 for years back in the 60s and 70s. And they always sold out Franklin Field in Philadelphia. But all right. As I mentioned, or teased anyway, the book is very enjoyable, but it is also very accurate in that Angelo doesn't pull any punches as to who he thought was worthy of praise as a sports persona in Philadelphia and who was not. And let me start with the owners. Let me just give me a take for these guys that you came in contact with. This first guy, Leonard Toews, he was your introduction into covering football in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah, because he tried to move the team to Phoenix, and I got to cover that for the Inquirer. And it's funny because he became public enemy number one when he tried that, because the Eagles are beloved. They're such a big part of Philadelphia. I got to know him years later after he sold the team, and he was actually a rather nice man. As rich people go, Pat, and I've gotten to deal with a lot of them, he was probably the nicest multi-millionaire I ever dealt with, because he really cared about the fan. He did that because he had all these gambling debts because he went to Atlantic City. I actually probably liked him as much as any owner in the 33 years I was here.
Well, there you go. Well, because compared to the guy you sold the team to, I guess, Angelo, it wasn't very difficult. Your experience with Norman Brayman.
Just the worst. That guy was just such a miser. He was, he charged the players for their socks. He was, and then we got to the Reggie White crisis, and Reggie White was the most beloved Eagle of that time. He and Randall Cunningham, and he just wouldn't ante up. He wouldn't pay. It was a money thing. So Reggie goes to Green Bay, wins a championship there. He was, Stan Hochman called him bottom line Brayman. I agree. So all he cared about was the money.
Could you, in all the sports you've covered and all the years you've covered them, can you think of a crazier juxtaposition of owner and coach than Norman Brayman and Buddy Ryan?
No, exactly. But I covered that whole story, and Norman Brayman didn't want to hire Buddy Ryan. Norman Brayman tried to hire David Shula, the son of his friend Don Shula. But David Shula was 26, and history has proved out that would not have worked out well if he did do it.
Well, I don't know now. You don't want to rush to judgment. Shula was 19-52 as a head coach in Cincinnati. I would say you were right in that judgment. Certainly. Then you get to Jeff Lurie. Let's face it, Angelo, very successful in Philadelphia. He has built an organization that has a winning culture. Just give me a quick take on Jeff Lurie.
Jeff Lurie was born on third base, and he thinks he hit a triple. That's the best way to put it. Very, very self-involved. Not a bad owner. Great in the community. Puts a winner on the field. I can't complain about that. But pompous and self-important, oh my God. Inaccessible to fans almost completely. Only on his terms will he ever speak. So there's some good and some bad. If you're a talk show host, you don't love him. If you're a fan and every year you got a chance to win, you do love him. So there's some good and some bad.
Fair enough. Talk about pompous and self-important. I don't know if you didn't just describe 32 NFL owners, but you certainly described Jerry Jones has, in many ways, Angelo, he's the face of the National Football League. He's added many zeros to the owner's compensation there in the way he has marketed both the Cowboys and the league. Just give me your take on him and the fact that he's in the Hall of Fame. Boy, does that rankle me. I don't know what Jerry Jones is doing in the NFL Hall of Fame, but what are your thoughts on him as an owner?
I'm going to be softer on him than you would expect, Pat. And understand, I know I'm rankling my own city because the number one request that when I'm signing this book is for bleep Dallas and not bleep. They want even. I was at a thing last night, like 80-year-old women are saying, "Oh, I want to give this to my son. Put down bleep Dallas." but here's the thing, all right? Jerry Jones, He doesn't win anymore, and I am in favor of that when it comes to the Cowboys. They haven't won in 8 years.
That's right.
Secondly, accessibility. Love him or hate him.
Yeah.
He answers the questions.
He does.
He cares enough about the fans to give them a sense for how he feels.
Right.
I prefer that over a guy who basically surrounds himself with yes men and lives in an ivory tower.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with you. There's a lot to like about Jones. He certainly resurrected what was then actually becoming a moribund Dallas franchise.
Yeah.
And as I said, he's one hell of an owner, and he has marketed Dallas wonderfully. All right, let's get to the coaching level, Angelo. In the book, you discuss at some length your relationship with and your thoughts about Andy Reid. Now, these mirror what I've said about him forever too, which is that his compact with the fans was non-existent, and it actually was very condescending. But what I want you to talk about is that the way you see it? And also, though, how do you account for how successful, though, he's been as an NFL head coach?
In all the years I was here, Pat, one of the biggest phonies I ever ran across was Andy Reid. He won. I know why he's winning now. I don't know if you saw this guy, Mahomes, who's his quarterback. Andy Reid had 14 shots here with some pretty darn good teams.
Yeah.
He didn't win anything here, all right? Unless you want to call NFC championship games. He went to 5 of those. Right. He only made it to 1 Super Bowl, and he choked in the final minutes of that one.
Right.
Andy Reid, my main complaint about Andy Reid is he never gave enough of a damn about the city to ever hold a news conference where he answered a question honestly. He basically programmed himself like a robot. I got to do a better job. The time is yours. All this garbage. I couldn't stand him then. Right. He actually sent me a goodbye message when I was retiring. And it was no more sincere than anything else he had ever said.
I guess he said, well, the rest of this time now will be yours.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I always thought as a fan, especially after some of the games you mentioned, those NFC championship losses, that Super Bowl, and I just wanted someone to say to him, yeah, it's on you. Well, if it's on you, why aren't you being fired as the coach of the Eagles? Because if it's on you, how do you explain it?
Can't stand the guy, Pat. Here's the thing. And then, of course, the last week of my career, I had to talk about the Chiefs, Andy Reid beating the Eagles in the Super Bowl. That was not the ending I was hoping for.
No, it was not. It was not. So, well, we'll see if the chance doesn't come up again. I never count Kansas City out. The other coach I just wanted you to give me your take on before we get to the current iteration of the Eagles was Buddy Ryan. Now, you had a lot of exposure to Ryan. As you mentioned, Ryan kind of helped to bring football back in this town, but he was not a successful head coach at all.
No, he wasn't, except unless you want to define success by increasing the interest in the team and in football, and that he did spectacularly well. But I kind of approached him. I was the beat reporter for the Inquirer, Philadelphia Inquirer, when he was the coach. And after all these lies he told the first few months he was here, I did a big analysis on him that actually got it nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. Right. And I didn't deserve it, and I was wrong.
Right.
And look, when he came in, Buddy Ryan said we're going to win every game in our division, right?
Right.
The only one who actually held him to that was me. I mean, the fans knew that wasn't going to happen. And I was too serious about him. Buddy left a positive impression on me in the sense that when he walked away, he attacked Bremen, which I loved, right? He used to call him the guy from France.
I know he did, yeah.
And more people. There was never a risk of a blackout after Buddy became the coach. Before that, the TV stations would have to buy up tickets so that you could get to see the game in Philly. Never happened again. There's been a huge waiting list. More people care about football in Philadelphia now because Buddy Ryan was here for 5 years.
That's fair. That's fair. One quick anecdote for you about Norman Brayman. You may not, I don't know if you know this. He lives at Indian Creek. He lives right on the course at Indian Creek, which is one of the most exclusive golf clubs in Florida. They will not let him join the club.
No.
Funniest thing, they will not let him join the club. Maybe not for the most honorable reasons, but I think it's because I just think no one likes him. It's a funny thing.
Well, if I were on that course, I would aim at his house.
Yeah. Angelo, tell me what your thoughts are, the 2023 iteration of the Philadelphia Eagles. 10-1, and in the midst of a tough 6-game gauntlet, they have a very tough team coming up here Sunday. Do you think the Eagles are going to be able to run this table and grab that number 1 seed?
They may get the number 1 seed. They will not run the table. Pat, I am relieved I don't have to do Philadelphia radio this year because they're 10-1. They're 2 games better than any other team in the NFL, and I don't see it. They're winning games, and God bless Jalen Hurts and the great luck they've had. They lose the KC game if that receiver catches the deep ball late in the game. They had 3 or 4 chances to blow it last week against the Bills, and they got lucky with that. A guy hits a 59-yard field goal into the rain. And these are there's a reason why the Eagles are 10-1. The Niners are 8-3, and the Niners are favored by 2.5 in Philadelphia Sunday. Yeah. What does that say to you? The odds makers are saying the Eagles are not that good either.
Yeah, interesting.
I don't think they'll win Sunday, and I don't see them as good as they were a year ago.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a very tough day for them Sunday. I'd love to see them win it because I'm no big Niners fan, but I think it's going to be a tough game for them. Angelo, you've been covering pro football now really since 1985. So you have almost been 40 years looking at this game. Just as a veteran of the sport and someone who's talked about it so much over that time, tell me how you think the game has evolved. And you think has it evolved for better or for worse?
It's evolved for worse. And only because I'm a dinosaur, Pat. I can't believe they still have a preseason with 3 games and no one plays the players that matter. What is that about? Yeah. Why are we always trying to find new ways to protect players from injury when there's zero indication that any of this works? I know that you can't headhunt a quarterback. I understand that. But more and more, the rules have been designed to take the thing out of the game, the physicality out of it that is most appealing, at least to our city, to Philadelphia. At the same time, it's still so much better a sport than any of the others that I'm just quibbling. I love it. I love it as much now as I ever did. During the games, I bitch about every call, everything that happens.
I know.
And then the next 6 days, I can't wait for it to come back. Or on Thursday night, like tonight. Can't wait to see it again.
Yeah, you're certainly right. What you just said encapsulates really the way the whole country is. Look at Thanksgiving Day. They set just records. That Washington game against Dallas was the 3rd highest rated NFL game ever, a regular season game. And you're right. The sport they just can't help but print money, the NFL.
It's awesome. It's a great sport.
Right.
And I guess in that sense, I love it even more than I did before. Yeah. So everybody else lowered the bar and the NFL lowered it less.
All right, listen, the book is called Loud, How a Shy Nerd Came to Philadelphia, Turned Up the Volume, and the Most Passionate Sports City in America. It's a great book. It's a great read.
Thank you, Pat.
Please, everybody, get this book. There's somebody in your family who would love this book for Christmas. I urge you to do that.
If anybody wants me to personalize it and write bleep Dallas, go to my website, angelocataldi.com, and I'll give you a personalized copy. I'll send it out to you. Because so many people want that. It's nuts.
It's funny. You should just get a stamp, Angelo. Make it easier on yourself. Just get
you're right.
I'm a stamp, and that's it.
I'm going to go do that right now, Pat. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining me. I enjoyed the conversation, right? And I wish you all the best of luck here and whatever else you're going to be doing. All right.
It's my pleasure, Pat. Thank you.
All right. Angelo Cataldi checking in there. It was a great conversation with one of the icons, really, of Philadelphia sports talk over the last 30 plus years. All right, Xander, if you bring it up real quick, I promise I'll get you out of here. The schedule for week number 13 Thursday Night Football, Seattle at Dallas. See if the Cowboys can keep up this home run. They are averaging a 20-point victory in their 5 home games so far this season. Not a great slate besides that. Obviously, the huge game, San Francisco at Philadelphia. Sunday night game, good game. Great uniform matchup, Kansas City at Green Bay. I like the Chiefs there, obviously. And then the Monday night game, Cincinnati, I'm sorry. The Bengals they're not have it without Joe Burrow against Jacksonville, who will win the AFC South. All right, that will do it for week number 13 here this week in pro football. Thanks very much to Xander Krause for producing. Thanks very much, Sal Paolantonio, Sean Green, Justin Bruni, Angelo Cataldi for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. And we look forward to coming back and talking about the end of the Eagle Gauntlet, or it's in the finish line is in sight when we come back for week 14 of this week in pro football.